Welcome back to the studio. Of course, what you were seeing earlier, live pictures from Maraba, just some minutes away from the nation's capital here in Abuja, as well as Nyanya. But I have my guests joining me right now. I have Mr. Adewale Oyerinde, who is the Director General of Nigeria Employers Consultative Association. Welcome, DG, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Good morning.
Good morning. I also do have Professor Ameiyofori Felix, is the lead promoter at Entekhub. Welcome to you, Prof, and thank you for joining us. Prof, can you hear me?
It's a pleasure. I can, even though network is, is struggling, but if you can hear me, I can hear you.
Okay, good morning, Prof, and welcome to the program. Now, let me start by asking DG here. DG, of course, earlier on, at least from 7 o'clock, I've been monitoring this protest in terms of activities, economic activities. And with the information I have, banks are not working, supermarkets are closed, petrol stations are closed. Even on my way to work, the road was really scanty. Normally, it's like a 7-minute drive for me to get to the office, but it took me like 4 minutes, 5 minutes here. And I know perhaps when you were coming to, the roads were scanty. Speak to me about perhaps how much cost, let's try as much as possible to count the cost of this economic protest. The visuals we had earlier, we've seen that the security operatives have started firing tear gas, at least here close to Abuja, Maraba, and Nyanya. And what was your advisory, even to your members, or employers to their to employees?
Well, thank you once again for having us. I think there's a consensus, a general consensus now. I think this process is probably one of those processes that will lead us to a nationhood, our evolution into a nation. And I think the general consensus that we have seen in the last few days is that everybody seems to have agreed that constitutionally there is a right to peaceful gathering, a right to peaceful protest. Now, the concern of stakeholders and the concern of organized businesses also is the potential for a peaceful protest to degenerate into something else, into chaos, which nobody actually wants. And I believe also those are promoting the protest also will not want a protest that will be chaotic and that will bring back the memories of 2020, the issues we had during NSAS. We're coming to talk about the cost and the advisory. I think what we have advised, there's a once beaten, twice shy. With in 2020, businesses, organized businesses lost close to ₦1 trillion in losses, vandalized properties, vandalized business assets, loss of stock, so many things like that happened in 2020. And learning from that, we've advised our members to ensure as much as possible the protection of lives and property, business assets, and also ensure as much as possible to initiate business sustainability models that will help the business to remain sustainable. Even if they can't open full-time, but they should be on ground, create a platform for intelligence sharing with their staff. Those that can work from home should work from home. Those that they feel can make it to the office can make it to the office, but open a proper line of communication to share intelligence as well. What is happening in this area? What is happening in this area? And then we see how it goes from there. We take it one day at a time.
We'll take it one day at a time. I'll come back to how we can also ensure that there's productivity even within the space, because in as much as many Nigerians are protesting, many Nigerians are also of the view that they should not also protest because of their daily bread. You know that a lot of people depend on cash daily. But let me come to Professor Felix. Prof, I hope you can hear me now, and let's talk about the federal government responses to this protest. We've been able to do like a small catalog of the responses of the federal government to this protest. If we have that card, we can show it on air. Prof, I would like you to speak. Perhaps, of course, the president has signed a minimum wage bill into law, 70,000 naira. The sale of 50 kg bag of rice at 40,000 naira. The Minister of Information told us the 20 bags have been distributed. 20 trucks each have been distributed to states. We've also seen the Student Loan Fund launched, consumer credit scheme and all of that. So Professor Felix, please speak to me about what you think around government responses to this protest.
I think I'll probably take a step back. Signals became strong when the subsidies initially by the president were.
There is no other thing.
Okay, go ahead. The government needed to have, monitor the signals properly and then see what to do. The efforts now are commendable, but they are probably happening at the nick of time. Already, a lot of things have gone, under the bridge. And we just hope it's sustainable, but that, all of what the president, even the National Assembly, reducing salaries, they are commendable. Honestly, the efforts are commendable, but my concerns are just coming at the hour, at the point. But the signals have been there from the very first day that the president took off the subsidy. And then, we, Institute of Chartered Economics of Nigeria, I remember we held a conference and addressed the subsidy and addressed, way forward. But I just hope that we'll be able to manage these protests very, timely, and then go back to the drawing board and see how to ensure that whatever government is putting on the table is not proactive, but is sustainable. They are good measures. They should have come a day earlier, but it's better, late than never. That is just what I would say. There's a lot of work to be done in the economic space, a lot of stress, in the economic space, and it's not something that you can fix just in an hour. No, it's a long-term strategy, and I think the thing that I observe that should necessarily have been done is a spillover effect, and we can come to that later. The spillover effect from the Nairobi, Kenyan incident. All those are things that government needed to have taken, note very quickly and know that Nigeria is just standing at the next door. I think that is just what I want to say now to allow the floor. Thank you.
Let's take our correspondent now, Ebuka. Ebuka, can you hear me and give me a situation report of where you are currently and what's happening there?
Well, like you are aware, we have left the Moshood Abiola National Stadium. We're actually marching to the Eagle Square, of course, the venue where the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory had yesterday said he has not given any approval for the use of that facility. The attempt by security operatives to, restrict the protesters to the National Stadium has failed. And of course, we'll be hearing from some of the protesters to find out what they actually feel about this protest. So tell us, why are you on the streets today?
See, I have every reason to be on the streets today because number one, even after they increase the minimum wage, you cannot afford a bag of rice. You increase minimum wage, if you remove fuel, fuel is high. If you check food, food is high. If you check even to afford what you even need, it's even difficult because if you can see the way the youth are outside now, we are very, very angry. We are upset. Even after everything the government has said, we are still outside. That is to show that we are gallant. In this place, we are ready to do and undo. We are ready to protest the government to hear us.
Okay, but the government has already told you guys to give them more time. How do you receive this message?
Yes! Year in, year out, every government will tell us to give them more time. More time for them to steal, more time for them to embezzle, more time for them to capture money enough to secure their children's future. We don't have much time to give them anymore. We are tired, we are fed up.
Okay. Finally, I'll ask you, have the police been cooperating with the protesters so far? Have there been any sort of altercation or fight between the protesters and the police?
No, not really. That's been going perfectly fine. As you can see, the police are protecting the protesters. So everything is going perfectly fine for now. We don't know about later. Maybe they have plans for later, but for now, we know everything is fine.
Okay. I'll ask you one last question. Is it true that this protest is being sponsored?
How? Can you sponsor the dignity of an African man? Can you sponsor the dignity of a man that is suffering? You cannot do that. We are tired. Our forefathers are at home resting, watching on videos. We, the youth, we are here, we are protesting because during their time they could not protest. Shame on them. And even now they are not protesting. Shame on them. We are here, we are protesting. We will protest for our rights.
So you've heard it. The protesters are making their voices heard. They are unhappy. They are not comfortable with what is going on in the country. They say there is hunger in the land. They say there is hardship, and they want the government to listen to them. We'll also be talking to one other protester who would also be giving us his own perspective on some of the issues that have happened there today. So tell us, the court order of yesterday asked the protesters to remain within the precinct of the National Stadium. Why are you marching to the Eagle Square?
Yes, for we to remain at the National Stadium, we think our boss was not be there because nobody knows we are there. And if you see the Nigerian country, the reason why we are protesting today, no institution is working in Nigeria. The security, the agriculture, the education, the health care is not working. Imagine the country that have thousands of millions of graduates running around the street. The president, they approved 21 billion for vice presidential residents, 160 million for SUP for senator. These people say they are representing us and we are dying of hunger. Even the minimum wage cannot even buy a bag of rice. What do you expect a hungry man like in Nigeria? As a hungry man in Nigeria, what do you expect us to do? We are for peace. We are not coming to remove President Tinubu. We just want him to hear our voice. He's our father and our grandfather. Let him listen to us. What is so hard that he cannot revert?
The government has actually asked for more time. Why is the youth not heeding to this request to give the government more time to solve your problem?
If you look to his campaign, if you watch his campaign promises, he said, renew hope. And he said, if the government fail, we should blame him. This is 1 year and some months now. The day he was inaugurated, he removed subsidy. That is the day our problem starts. Keep high. Okay, even if you increase the minimum wage, what of the people that are not working? What of the youths that are not working? That we are struggling, moving from there to there to can see food to eat. What do we eat?
When you come back.
What of the unemployment?
Can you hear me?
Which palliative will reach us?
Ebuka, can you hear me?
They will share the rice in the office.
Right. Ebuka, can you hear me?
Thank you. I can hear you, Nancy. I can hear you.
Okay. I want to ask you.
I can hear you.
Yes, this man that you just spoke with now asked a fundamental question that if they increase minimum wage, about those that are not working, and we have millions of Nigerians that are not working. But I would like to ask you what the situation report is. I see that this is a long walk to freedom. That's according to Nelson Mandela's book. You will share some calories today. Okay. Did you notice if there are businesses that are open around? I can see that at least you're on the streets of Abuja. Did you see like filling stations opened, banks opened, businesses opened, and observing perhaps from a distance?
Well, I can tell you that most of the government institutions and private businesses are shut down on the day of this protest. And it appears that they are already aware of what it's going to look like. So that is why the situation is like this. I can tell you, this is the popular B6, B12 and Circle Road. You can also call it the Independent Avenue, where, of course, it's a very strategic access, to the Central Business District. And of course, behind me is the Central Bank of Nigeria headquarters.
Exactly. I noticed that's where you are too.
A lot of CBN staff. This road on a normal day is quite busy, and of course, people are always, making use of these axes to do, as an access route to where they are going. But today, it is looking different. A lot of people are not on the street. The only set of people that are making use of this road today are the protesters. You can see them in their vehicles, you can see them walking, you can see them holding their placards, making their voices heard, and they have decided that whatever happens today, the government must listen to them and actually find a solution, a permanent and lasting solution to some of their problems.
Ebuka, one last question before you go, if you can hear me. Ebuka, one last question. There was a court order yesterday that should restrict the protesters to the MKO Stadium here in Abuja. But people are already on the streets, at least around the Central Business District. Are people not observing that?
Well, they actually started from the MKO Abiola National Stadium. They started there. It was quite peaceful until at some point the Commissioner of Police, Ben Igwe, stopped by and, of course, trying to inform the protesters that they must stay within the restricted area. Of course, that is the perimeter around the National Stadium. But few minutes ago, about 30 minutes ago or thereabout, the protesters decided to march to the Eagle Square. There have been attempts, even when they took off from the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, there have been attempts by security operatives to stop them from proceeding. But of course, you know, the will of the people, like they say, will always prevail. They actually talked the security operatives into giving them the opportunity to walk down to the Eagle Square. So the security operatives at this point have no choice but to provide protection for them. If the camera can just take you a bit further, you see that the security operatives are actually providing protection for the protesters. A lot of them in their vans, the police, the VSS, the armed military men, providing security for the protesters. Nancy.
All right, Ebuka, thank you. We'll see if we can come back to you or any of our correspondents across the country. But it seems now that the security operatives have really bent, they are bent backwards now. Since that order was for MKO Stadium here in Abuja, the will of the people, like you say, have held sway. Thank you, Ebuka. So, DG, your response to that, of course, there was a protester that actually said the president has signed 70K into law. Agreed, fantastic. But the issue is that there are millions of Nigerians, over 100 million Nigerians are poor, that will not even have access to that minimum wage. How many people have access to that minimum wage? What happens to them? Which is a very valid question.
Absolutely, it is. It is not new that we have challenges with rising unemployment. Before this administration came in, unemployment has been a major issue, which the private sector has taken some very proactive steps to address, and we think government too have taken some steps to address. You will always find workers in the private sector, the organized private sector. You always find workers in the informal sector. And the gap between the capacity of the private sector to provide jobs and the jobs that government itself can provide, and the jobs or the environment that is convenient enough for individuals to become entrepreneurs. The gap between those scenarios I've created is what you find in the unemployment space. So I think it's an ongoing issue. Unemployment, provided as long as the private sector is not in a position to provide jobs.
But is the current private sector in a position to provide jobs? Because
no,
it's harsh.
Absolutely not. And I think this is basically a wake-up call. First, to commend the police for the role the police is currently playing across the country. We report that we've had that the police have been very, very civil and very supportive, which is also a lesson we learned from 2020, the NSAS protest. So I think we've learned significantly on how to manage this kind of thing progressively. And we can just hope that the protest, as is going on across the country, will remain peaceful as it is, so that the rights of other Nigerians that have decided not to join, those rights will not be infringed on. But basically, are there unemployment issues? Yes, unemployment issues. Are there business challenge issues? Yes, there are business challenge issues. But there are more ways apart from the protest. The protest is just one way of drawing government attention to it. And there are many other ways that we think we can also use to address issues. But this has basically created an awareness. It has drawn more attention to those issues. I would believe with the response of government in the last 2, 3, 4 days, or the last 1 week, and the level of engagement that government have had with different stakeholders, I think this event today has really shown us that we can engage more, we can create a platform where we can share information more, that even if government is doing much more, even if there are palliatives that has been given, even if there are social safety nets that have been given to millions of Nigerians, there is need for government to communicate those things properly to the citizens so that they can understand these issues. If we don't build consensus around the reforms, then the people will not understand. They will not see the benefit, they will only see the pains. And the more you are seeing the pain, the more you get disconnected from the short, medium, and long-term benefits of those reforms. So the need for more engagement between government and the organized private sector, between government and the citizens across board, I think that need has been shown glaringly here.
Okay, let me bring in Prof here, and let's take a look at even the need to communicate with Nigerians. Professor Felix, just like DG has said, that we've seen in the last few days, government talking like they've never talked before, at least since the life of this administration. Let's bring in the states here and the measures. Are you seeing commensurate measures from the state as addressing the economic hardship? Because if we take a look at it, it's not only the central government that should be pointed at. Yesterday, I raised that issue also with the special advisor to the president on economic matters. States now get more money. But let me also tell you that even while I was finishing the show, I got a message from the Commissioner of Finance of one of the states. And he did tell me, he said, Nancy, even though we get more money, but inflation has eroded the money that we're getting from states. So you see that the states are also coming up with an excuse. And you will see it's also almost like a valid excuse that even though we get more naira now as a result of the removal of fuel subsidy, inflation has eroded the quantity of money that we're supposed to use for citizens in our states. How tenable is that? Professor Felix, can you hear me?
Okay, I don't know. Yeah, I'm struggling with my network.
Okay.
If you can hear me, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Prof, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Okay, as the DG said. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. I also want to, just commend the police and the forces that are supporting, protection, security for the protesters. It's important that we are maturing into that rather than confronting, which is very commendable. Now, on the issue of minimum wage, honestly, it's not going to be easy, even for the country. It's not going to be easy for the states, and it's not going to be easy for the private sector. A lot of indices speak to that. You know that we are just an importing. Productivity is very low. I guess the DG will speak to that. The cost of production in the country is very high. The private sector is struggling to keep the doors open. Even the federal government itself is struggling with increasing debt stock, inflation on one side. So the numbers are just numbers. How to get them sustainable is what economics is mostly concerned, because you can just put a number and then you have to look at both the macro and the microeconomic environment that can support those numbers. I do not see, apart from a few states, I can tell you, apart from a few states in the country, I will probably start of the 36 plus FCT, I do not see, 20, 30 states meeting this minimum wage requirement. I do not see that. So it's something that I would continue to say there's need for going back to the drawing board to look at the total economic structure. A country that we import nearly everything will not support such wage. Power is a problem. We can come to that. Even the petroleum product, the little effects we get from sale of our crude oil is spent on importing petroleum products and all that. So I can't see how even the 70,000 naira is commendable. It's a good step from 30,000, but anything what I see 300,000, the numbers are challenging, and it is something that everybody needs to come to terms and see how can we move the economy forward. It's not just a pen on paper. I do not see pen on paper model. I see really, really, breaking down into how we can sustain it. We are still importing petroleum products. Exchange rate is floating around 1,005, 1,006. And, inflation is high up. Even food inflation is reasonably high. You can see that. So many things that needs to be put on the table. The protest is okay as long as it is contained within civility. But my main concern is what next after the protest. Government reactions, okay, is good measure, but reactive measures most times are not sustainable. And so we keep saying we need to see how sustainable most of these things are. So that is what I'll just say for now, to leave the floor. Thank you.
Could you a bit? Can you still hear me, Prof?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you, but it's breaking, but I can hear you.
Okay, the question I asked earlier is regarding states. States are getting more naira now as a result of the removal of, or partial removal of subsidy, because some way, somehow, there's still subsidy. Because if there's no subsidy now, with the numbers we have, a liter of petrol will be going for 1,000 naira, and I don't know if the president wants to do that. That was why he got her during Gelale, just I think a few months ago, earlier this year, to be able to just peg it somehow. But I know that if market forces have their way, we will be buying a liter of fuel for more than 1,000. The president apparently do not want to get the polity heated than what it is right now. Now, what am I driving at? The states are getting more monies now because they've been sharing trillions of naira every month. I announce it here after every FAC meeting every month. But the question is, what are states doing? What are the measures that you're seeing from states? Because it's easy to point one finger to the federal government. Let's also point the remaining fingers to the states. Because now, the protesters are across the country calling Tinubu, Tinubu, Tinubu. Protesters are not calling state governors, calling their state governor here in Abuja, saying, oh, Wike, in Nasarawa, Abdullahi, in Delta, Sherifo, in Imo, Uzodimao, in Abia, Otio. And do you understand what I'm saying? Because those are chief executives of their states too.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Prof. Go ahead.
Okay, I think it's purely a psychological effect, because even though we have, a federal,
Prof, are you still there? Okay, so the network is just giving us a problem this morning. Okay, DG, let me come back to you. And perhaps you take it from where I ended with our prof, the professor of economics. What do you think? Like I mentioned, everybody's taking a look at the president now. And we have 36 plus 1 here in Abuja, 37.
I think it's a recurring conversation now that the federal has rolled out what it's doing creditably well. But attention should also be beamed on the states. You mentioned there's much more money going to the states. I think there's time now for us to start making definitive inquiries about the states. What are they doing with their resources? Thank God we have the local government autonomy now coming up. Hopefully it will be implemented to the letter. I think this is the time for citizens to start actually asking deep questions from the states. What exactly is happening in the states? If the federal government is doing this much, and the federal government is also passing the palliatives, from the list that was shown on your screen a few minutes ago, that so number of trucks of rice has been sent to the states. Over 750 trucks of 50 kg has been sent to the states. I think it's time for the states to start becoming accountable to those things that the federal say is giving them, because we need to make inquiries about what exactly is happening across board, from the federal to the state to the local government. Everybody in government need to be very accountable.
What has been your engagement with state governors? Because many of your members who are organized private sector have their own businesses in different states of the country, the Ogun states of this world, the Lagos states, perhaps Kano and all of that. How has the responses of governors been towards enabling businesses in those states that will also further create employment. Because if businesses are doing well, people will not even be on the street. People will be like, I beg, I go work. Do you understand? I have to feed my family.
Absolutely. You know, the challenge has been this, and without mentioning any particular state, I think the challenge across board has been the desire to mop up revenue. Mop up revenue, create taxes and levies to just get revenue. And sometimes you get revenue at the detriment of business development, business growth. And for us, it's managing the contradictions basically across board. You know, the federal government instituted the Oyerinde Presidential Committee on Fiscal and Tax Reforms. And while the committee is trying to create a system that makes taxation easy, effective, and efficient, and also streamline those taxes. You still have some states, even at the federal level, coming up with new taxes and new levies. And those are contradictions. And those are the issues that we most likely have at the state level. The drive for revenue sometimes run contrary to the quest for business development. And without business sustainability, hardly will you create jobs. It has been said that for every 10 jobs created globally, the private sector creates about 8 or 9 of them. So enlightened self-interest will tell me that, look, I should create an environment conducive for organized businesses to increase, to expand. If my states, if I'm still running the civil service state, to create an environment for businesses to flock into my states. Because the ability to create jobs, the ability to drive economic activities rests significantly on the organized private sector. And that's the position we hold here.
Okay. We're seeing live visuals still here in Abuja. I don't know if Ebuka is still there to speak with us. Earlier on, we were talking about how peaceful it was. When we spoke with Ebuka, I didn't get to see tear gas fumes in the air, but now I'm seeing tear gas fumes. I hope that Ebuka is okay. These are live pictures coming from the city center here in Abuja. We really do not actually know what is happening now beyond what we're seeing on screen. I think the security agencies are using tear gas to perhaps disperse the protesters. Ebuka, can you hear me? I hope you are okay. What you can hear are voices of the protesters
protesting peacefully, and they are throwing tear gas on us. This is a peaceful protest. This is what we are saying. People are out here to protest over their rights, and they are being dispatched by security personnel. It's unfair.
Ebuka, can you hear me? Ebuka, I can see that you're there, but I just hope you are okay. What actually is happening over there?
Well, it's turning really chaotic at the Central Business District, where protesters are being targeted with tear gas canisters. The police have been firing tear gas canisters at the protesters since they arrived very close to the Eagle Square. All the protesters are now trying to do is to get to safety. Some of them are actually trying as much as they can to avoid the impact of the canisters. It has turned chaotic, apparently. We are going to be talking to some of the protesters. They will tell us what it feels like. Let's talk to some of the protesters, and they will tell us what has just happened. Tell us.
Because this morning we are here 7:30, so we are trying to come from Eagle Square to tell Mr. President to come and address us. We are here for peaceful protest, but now police that started trying to get for us, shooting and everywhere. By what we promised the government that we are now going to do, we'll do a peaceful protest. We're not here to cause vandalism, but see what the president are doing to us. We are very angry. We are very angry right now. So please let them allow us to do the peaceful protest. What we demand, let the president to come out and address us to tell us what we are going to do. So we are here for peace protest. My name is Fetna. Thank you very much.
Like you've heard, they are still firing and targeting the protest with tear gas canisters. Of course, it has caused a lot of chaos. The tension here at the Central Business District is quite high. A lot of people are actually falling or caving into the impact of the tear gas canisters. Almost every location within the central district has been saturated by tear gas canisters. The situation is quite tense, and the people are actually trying to find and make their way to safety. If you are very observant, you discover that everyone, virtually everyone, including myself, we are under the impact of the tear gas canisters. We can hardly breathe, we can hardly say a word because the impact is quite strong on all of us. It's quite a day, it's been, and all of the protesters, everyone here at the Central Business District are scampering for safety. You could see the rising smoke of the tear gas canisters filtering into the air. It's a tough one. Most people have questioned why the police would opt to target protesters for no reason. They're asking why would the security operatives target protesters. They have made it abundantly clear that the protest is not violent, and the police are the ones giving it a violent dimension at this point. We'll talk to some of the protesters. We'll also talk to someone who will tell us, could you face the camera?
Yeah.
Step down with it, step down, step down.
My name is
So tell us your name.
Adamu. My name is Mohammed Adamu. I work as electrical engineer. I'm an electrician. I'm here to fight for my rights. Without fighting the police people are fighting us, throwing daggers on we. Without fighting, we do not destroy anything of government. We do not touch anything. And police are trying to destroy our protest. Please, they should talk to the government of Nigeria. We are pleading the government of Nigeria that should do our demand. We are not here to destroy government property. We are here for a peacefully protest. What we are asking government that should reduce the fuel down, that should give us security, that should do our needful. We are pleading the government. We are not here to trouble government. We are pleading the government. Government that should do our needful. We are pleading. We are pleading.
Okay.
Stop killing us. That should stop fighting us. We are not here for fighting.
Thank you. Thank you.
All we are asking, we are not fighting the government, but we are asking them to do the right thing. Let them reduce the fuel. We want the subsidy to be returned back. Even though it doesn't return back, they should reduce the price of the cost of fuel. That is the problem we're having in this country. The government should create employment. They should reduce the fuel. That is all we're asking. We are not fighting the government. We are doing it peacefully, but they are fighting against us by shooting tear gas. Is that what the government should do? They should stand for us, and we are preaching peace. We are doing it, it is even for their own best. It is for their own best that we are doing this for.
Can you hear me?
We are not fighting for our own self, but we are fighting for the government and for the betterment of Nigeria. They should reduce the cost of fuel. That is all we are asking for. Reduce the fuel. Reduce the fuel and return us back to subsidy. Thank you.
Okay. Ebuka, can you hear me now? Ebuka, okay. I think we will just have to come back to the studio because it seems that Ebuka can hear me. Reduce the fuel, price of fuel. Professor Felix, I hope you're still there. How possible is it for government to go back on its decision and reduce the price of fuel? Prof, are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Prof. The protesters are saying that, that the government should reduce the price of fuel. Do you think that is possible? Because from the protesters, that's actually the genesis of our problem, at least this cost of living crisis. Very quickly, yes.
Yeah, very briefly, yeah. Okay, see, it's not tenable. I mean, 100 naira is not tenable. Even if you look at the OPEC countries that are exporting, even the non-OPEC countries, if you take dollar into or cents into liter, only a few countries are doing below 100. The rest are way above 100. So it's unlikely that Nigeria can do 100 naira a liter of petrol or gasoline. I think that would be a feature because we need to have the capacity to produce ourselves. As long as we are going to import, of course, you know landing costs has increased and subsidies actually, you know, whether you like it or not, subsidy is still going on because if you have a landing cost in excess of 1,000 naira. I don't know how you are going to sell it, anything below that. But the answer is what the president has just signed, selling crude oil in naira to Dangote, an indigenous a modular refinery. But that is one solution. The next solution is actually to make the crude oil available for them in country so that they can produce, and hopefully that can impact on the price. And I also want to say that not all the modular refineries in the country are capable of producing PMS or gasoline. Some of them are diesel, significantly are diesel. Only a few will be doing gasoline. So we also need to look at, if you really want to bring down the price, then the structures have to be reviewed. It's not possible to make 100. I also don't think, 200 will be a number in the immediate.
Okay, I think just your final word, DG, just before we go, because we also need to cover what's happening in other parts of the country. Yes. What is your final word? What's next, really?
Well, for us, it's aligning with the legal representative of the protesters. I think San Onogburua says, I think the voice of the protesters have been heard very loud now. I think we will be counterproductive for us for this to degenerate into chaos. I will believe strongly that the government have heard the loud voice of the protesters, and it's time for government to also expedite action in the implementation of those reliefs and intervention that is currently rolling out.
Okay, thank you very much, DG, for coming.
Thank you.
And let's continue to monitor what's happening across the country.
Absolutely.
I've been speaking with Mr. Adewale Smart Oyerinde, the DG, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, that's NECA, and Professor Ameiyofori Felix, the lead promoter at Entekhub. Of course, is nationwide protests across the country. Even as we still cover the protests across Nigeria, let's quickly take situation reports in Lagos, in Edo State, as well as Nasarawa. I am Nancy Nigeria. I will see you all again tomorrow. And don't forget to continue to follow AIT as we continue the broadcast, of course, monitoring what's happening across the country.
Government!